It's time for Michael Morales Torres and Lucha Libre Online.
Saludos a toda la afición de la lucha libre. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante del equipo de Lucha Libre Online. Y tenemos el enorme privilegio de presentarles a nuestra invitada especial en la noche de hoy, representando a la NWA de North Carolina para el mundo. Ella es Kamille Brickhouse, actualmente Camille en NWA. Camille, it is an honor for us to have you as our guest. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm good. I've had a travel day today, so I'm a little bit bummy right now, but made it on here with you, so good to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for granting us part of your time to do this interview. And I wanted to start asking you, how did your passion for pro wrestling start? I mean, you were a softball player previous to being a wrestler, so how did that happen for you?
Yeah, so I just grew up watching it like most kids did, kind of got into it. I watched it with my dad, and then by the time I was in about high school, I kind of stopped watching it. College wasn't really watching it very much. And then I tried to have a normal job out of college. And I remember I went back home for Christmas time to visit my family. And while I was back home, we went to like an independent show. And I hadn't been to one in forever. And I was just having a blast. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, like, why haven't I ever done this? This was made for me. So I just Googled how to become a professional wrestler and started getting into it.
I'll translate that. Camille siempre vio lucha libre, a pesar de que era una jugadora de softball profesional. Su mamá era fanática también, al igual que ella, y llega un punto en que en un evento independiente ella dice, ¿por qué yo no estoy haciendo esto? Yo debería estar haciendo eso. Así que se sentó en Google y dijo, ¿cómo ser un luchador? Y ahí está. Simplemente aprendió a hacerlo y rápido fue a los entrenamientos. What was the easiest and the hardest part to do the transition from being a professional softball player to being a pro wrestler?
I would say that you assume if you're naturally athletic, yes, it does help a lot in the wrestling ring, but there's really nothing that compares to wrestling as far as how you move in the ring, and even just getting your footing right in the ring. It's so different than anything else. So I guess just the realization that just because I was a naturally good athlete at other sports didn't necessarily mean that it was going to make wrestling easy. It helped, but it wasn't an automatic, bam, I'm the best wrestler ever type of thing.
I'll translate that. Obviamente ser atlética, ser ya un atleta, una softball player profesional, ayuda bastante a esto. Obviamente no es que automáticamente, como dices, bam, te convierte en una luchadora profesional de élite, pero ayuda bastante a moldear el carácter y a moldear el talento que eventualmente se construye a través de esto. What do you recall of your first trainings as a pro wrestler? Like, usually it is not what anyone expects, like the first fall and everything. How was that experience for Camille?
Yes, so I wasn't even allowed to get in the ring to take bumps for like 2 weeks. We had to do a lot of like endurance activities outside of the ring to prove that we were allowed to get into the ring. My school was very tough. And so you had to prove your worth, prove that you wanted to be there. And then after 2 weeks, you finally had bump day. And bump day was like the big, like you taking your first bump. And what we did is we stayed in a squat position for like minutes on end. So your legs are shaking, shaking, shaking. And then they would whistle and then bump. And you do that for like, 5 or 10 minutes, I don't recall, but it was a long time. Your legs are shaking, but it was a great test to make sure that that's something you really wanted to do. And then afterwards, everyone's giving you high fives and stuff like that, because bump day was like the kind of mini graduation day to kind of finally get in the ring and start learning moves. So that was cool.
Translate that. Camille, la escuela donde ella estaba era un poco distinta y era muy rígida porque todo el tiempo eran actividades outdoors, ejercicios fuera del ring constantemente, cardio y diferentes levantamientos de pesa, etcétera. Pero llegó después de varias semanas el momento anhelado de treparte un cuadrilátero y era el llamado Bump Day. Ese día de las caídas, Camille estaba en squat así por varios minutos y cuando sonaban el pito, rompía de espalda completamente y el dolor y toda la vida, pero era como que todo el mundo te daba los hi-fi, todo el mundo estaba contento porque era como que un gran día de grabación para todo ello. Do you remember your first match? Like, where it was against who, how do you felt going through that curtain, feeding of the audience's energy? How was that for you?
So my first real match, not because we weren't allowed to kind of go work the indies until we had a few matches at school, but my first match out on the indies, kind of out on my own, it was in Port Richey, Florida, for AWE, not AEW. AWE was a little independent promotion. And I remember just being so nervous. I mean, I still get so nervous every time I get nervous, but walking out, and then I was a heel. So just making sure I got all the boos, and it was going really well. And like, I've seen that match since then. And honestly, for our first match, it really wasn't bad. Like, I'm a lot different now, but just getting it out of the way, I remember it was super fun, and it was just a big accomplishment, and all my friends were there, which made it even better.
I'll translate that. Su primera lucha fue la empresa AWE en Florida, y allí obviamente rodeada de sus amigos y de todo, llega el momento. Dice que la lucha no fue mala, obviamente fue una primera lucha, pero la emoción, se sentía nerviosa. Y obviamente es su primera lucha. Cualquier persona estaría más que emocionado. Y así fue la primera lucha de Kamille. Fast forwarding a little bit on time, you got to NWA, which is like the oldest wrestling promotion in the world with the lineage and everything. But I mean, everyone, Harley Race, Luthez, everyone was the Ric Flair. So how did Kamille got signed by NWA? How do you got there? Who was the person who contacted you initially?
Yeah, so at that point, I actually thought I was done with wrestling. I was kind of over it. I had a bad experience somewhere that kind of made me not want to do it anymore. But it did get to a point where I was missing it a little bit, but I didn't let anybody know. And David Lagana just so happened to shoot me a message and was like, "Hey, are you really done wrestling?" And I was just like, "Why? Like, what do you got for me? Who knows?" And so he explained the role that they kind of wanted, and they weren't sure if it was going to be a permanent thing or just a one-off for the NWA 70 event. And it just so happened that the dynamic of it worked really well, and people really liked it when we went out there. So it stuck, and then I've been around ever since.
I'll translate that. Llega un punto en donde Kamille dice, hasta aquí llegué con la lucha libre, tuvo una mala experiencia, no más. David Lagana le escribe y le dice, mira, ¿de verdad terminaste con la industria? Y dice, bueno, depende. ¿Qué tienes para mí? Y llega entonces la oportunidad de tener un rol en la NWA, y a esa es la próxima pregunta que de hecho nosotros vamos a ir ahora. That's actually our next question. Whose idea was to pair you up as Nick Aldis's insurance policy?
I think it was a kind of a mix of Nick and Lagana together, because at I think it was All Out, or All In, one of those shows, Nick faced Cody, and that's where he lost the NWA title to Cody because Brandy interfered. And so for the rematch, they were like, okay, well, what's something that we can do to kind of make it a little bit different? And one of the things was make it 2 out of 3 falls. And then the next thing was, well, why don't we get someone that can kind of keep Brandy at bay, so she can't interfere. And they were like, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm a guy. I'm not going to touch her. And we need a girl. But, everyone knows Nick's married to Mickie James. So they were like, it can't be a love interest type of thing, because that just would make no sense. And we can't get a really girly girl, that's someone small and petite to be like a bodyguard character. So David Lagana had just kept an eye on me when I worked at Indies, and he was like, I have the perfect person who can come in and, be like a China-esque type of bodyguard.
I'll translate that. Llega el momento dado. ¿Cómo llega Kamille a la NWA? ¿De quién fue la idea principal de crear este personaje del insurance policy de Nick Aldis? Bueno, en All In, en Chicago, Nick Aldis pierde el campeonato ante Cody Rhodes porque Brandy Rhodes interfiere. Posteriormente hicieron esa lucha de 2 a 3 caídas y dijeron, ok, para que Brandy no se meta a la lucha, necesitamos a alguien. ¿Quién es la persona? No puede ser alguien petit, tiene que ser alguien grande, fuerte, para que sea creíble el personaje. Y David Lagana dice, oye, yo tengo la persona correcta para eso, la vi en la indie, la muchacha es buena, y así es que entonces entra Kamille Brickhouse a este personaje como Kamille solamente. En el caso de esto fue como un personaje similar a China, de bodyguard, and who took the decision of the insurance policy to be silent for so long. And how was that experience for you?
It kind of just came naturally. I think eventually it was like, okay, let's keep her silent for this amount of time. But when I first came in, that wasn't the plan. But there was such kind of a mystery around who I was anyway, that there was never really any purpose in me to talk. And then if you think of people's bodyguards in real life, they're not chatting away. They're always just kind of stoic. So it was a mix of that. And then eventually when NWA Power came on, everyone was like, well, why isn't she talking? So instead of talking all of a sudden, we were like, well, let's just see how long we can go and make people, keep people guessing.
I'll translate that. ¿De quién fue la idea de que Kamille fuese silente, que no hablara? Bueno, obviamente los bodyguards no hablan, están así todo el tiempo, es quieto. Llega el momento dado en que llevaba tanto tiempo sin hablar que dice, ok, vamos a extender a ver esto, a ver cuánto tiempo más podemos hacerlo y que la gente comience a picarle la curiosidad. Speaking of which, it was a fun fact. Kamille traveled to Puerto Rico for an event here, Fight Forever. And I remember this. Hugo was doing a live stream, happy with everyone. And when he asked Kamille something, I was like, she doesn't speak. She doesn't speak. Kamille doesn't speak. And it was like, how she doesn't speak? And then he remembered, oh, the everything. So funny story there about that. How was your experience, wrestling in Puerto Rico?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. There was so many fans and they were making so much noise. And I feel like the thing that is great about the Puerto Rican fans, then again, I don't speak Spanish, so maybe I just don't see it. But I feel like the Puerto Rican fans actually enjoy wrestling instead of wanting to always critique. Whereas in America, you get a lot of fans that they say they're fans, but really all they want to do is critique this and that instead of really enjoying it. And in Puerto Rico, I liked the fact that the fans, they were there and they wanted to enjoy what was in front of them, no matter what it was. And they were just having a good time. So I really appreciated that.
I'll translate that. ¿Qué le gustó a Kamille de Puerto Rico? Que los fanáticos estaban disfrutando la lucha. Ellos estaban viendo la lucha. Ellos no estaban criticando como tal vez hacían otras personas en Estados Unidos que te dicen que son fanáticos, quote unquote, pero la realidad es que se sientan a criticar. El puertorriqueño, lo que es cierto, simplemente es que está como que ansiosos, estaban haciendo ruido, el ¡guau! ¡Guau! Y los ruidos y todas las cosas. Pues eso siempre gusta del lado de acá. You also had the opportunity to work in Mexico for Nación Lucha Libre. Pretty interesting how you got there. How was your experience working in front of one of the wildest crowds ever, Mexico?
I loved it because I was a heel, so I loved coming out there and just getting automatic boos and stuff thrown out there. I thought it was and that too. It was fun for me because while I was in Mexico, the Kamille gimmick with NWA was still being silent, but while I was in Mexico, I got to talk. So that was a lot of fun for me because I finally got to kind of show my personality a little bit. Obviously, I was there with my fiance. Carlito was there. MVP was there. So it was a great group of guys to learn from as well.
I'll translate that. Obviamente ya llega a México con Nación Lucha Libre y mientras estaba silente en la NWA, en México ella hablaba, en México gritaba a las personas, en México los alteraba y mostraba un poco de personalidad y ella inmediatamente que salía los ¡bú! ¡Bú! Y la robaban con cosas. Era como que obviamente una experiencia bonita. Luchar en México es algo sumamente diferente al resto de las cosas. Speaking of which, you mentioned your fiance, Tom Latimer, is a great wrestler. We also had the opportunity to have him here in Puerto Rico. What do you think of the way NWA has been working with him? I mean, he's a great guy. He was in the tag team division for a while, but I believe he has a potential to be a singles wrestler as he was basically his whole career. Would you be interested in the future in pairing with Tom Latimer, but just you two guys?
Yeah, definitely. Just because one, it's a real story. Mm-hmm. So it would come off, very organic because it's real. And the fact that, and this is not me being biased. This is me. I mean, because we met through training and all this stuff and me watching him. He's the best wrestler that I've seen as far as aggression and making stuff believable. And he's the best wrestler the NWA has. I don't care. I'm going to say it right now. He is. And so, yes, I think he deserves bigger opportunities and to get some respect on his name as far as being a singles wrestler. I definitely think that's in his future, and that he'll show. I mean, I saw after the pay-per-view, so many people said that one of their favorite matches from the pay-per-view was him and Pope. And Pope is wonderful in his own right too, but Tom can have a match with anyone and it'll be a great match. So I'm looking forward to his future and what it holds too.
I'll translate that. Kamille está comprometida con Tom Latimer, anteriormente conocido como Bram en TNA, tenía también otro nombre en WWE. Y obviamente ya menciona el detalle de que en su opinión, tal vez como que pueda estar parcializada porque es su pareja, pero Tom es el mejor luchador que tiene la NWA, punto final. El tipo puede tener una lucha buena con todo el mundo, y una evidencia de eso fue la lucha del pay-per-view, Back for the Attack. De repente tuviste a Pope es un tipo que habla y habla y habla y de una buena lucha, pero entonces tuviste que todo lo elevó Tom al otro lado y creó este peso. Obviamente le emociona saber que tiene la NWA para él. Ella ha visto cómo entrena, ella ha visto lo que se esfuerza, y es una persona que necesita obviamente que le den más prestigio a su nombre, pero coincido completamente con Kamille en esto. Speaking of which, NWA's creative process is something that always amazes me, because it is one of the few companies that are booking matches with old school credibility in every single sense. Like you don't see this weird unnecessary flips just because it looks pretty, you know.
Right.
For example, your moments or thumb matches, everything is build up with a purpose. Every punch you throw with a purpose. So what is your opinion, you know, about NWA's creative process?
Like you said, we really do like to think of ourselves as the different program. There's something that is different for people to watch, because my thing is, I respect the other stuff. It takes a great deal of athleticism. I'm not taking that away, but it all kind of starts to look the same after a while. And NWA is different because just the studio in itself is a different look. And then the fact that we got a whole bunch of big guys and girls in there just going at it and having like a fight style of match is an actual competition, wanting to win and showing that you want to win the whole time instead of just kind of doing artsy stuff, is what makes our product different.
I'll translate that. ¿Qué es lo interesante del proceso creativo y de la NWA? Que son la otra alternativa, que es algo distinto, que obviamente muestra las movidas old school, que muestran las movidas que tienen un propósito, que en vez de hacer algo porque se ve artístico o bonito, simplemente lo hace lucir como lo que es real, los golpes, lo rudo, el lado agresivo de la industria. Y a mí personalmente me fascina eso de la NWA. I have a question that is kind of a personal question for you. How did Kamille got into the real estate business?
So that actually happened because of the pandemic. So NWA, a lot of people don't actually know that we were going to even start touring in 2020, doing live events and stuff like that. So we were all so excited. It was supposed to be a huge year for us. We had a lot of momentum, and then boom, pandemic. So it kind of made me look at it and think, you know, this could be taken away at any moment from me. I need to have sort of a backup plan. Like, wrestling's still number one, but I need a backup plan. And so I thought about something that could be good for both Tom and I. And real estate was that, because I was like, even when wrestling starts back up, the schedule, you're an independent contractor in real estate as well. So it's all your own schedule and you can do that. And it's definitely different. And the market is really crazy right now, but I'm glad that I have that in my back pocket that I can fall back on.
I'll translate that. NWA tenía, el 2020 era grande para la NWA. Iban a hacer live events, iban a expandir y todo el mundo estaba bien emocionado. Y llegó la pandemia. Es como que, llegó la pandemia, se fastidió todo, y le hace pensar a Kamille, yo necesito hacer algo más con mi vida en caso de que la industria se mantenga detenida. Y de ahí es que surge la idea de Kamille trabajar como agente de real estate, de bienes raíces acá en el área de Estados Unidos. Y tiene un fallback plan en el caso de que algo pase con la industria o algo le pasa a su carrera, pues siempre tener algo importante que le gusta, es distinto, pero le gusta. Así que Kamille está también trabajando como agente de bienes raíces en su vida personal. I also want to say something else in Spanish. Pueden conseguir a Kamille Brickhouse en Cameo, cameo.com/Kamille Brickhouse, cameo.com/Kamille Brickhouse, ahí para todos los saludos de cumpleaños, bodas, saludos al primo, lo que usted quiera, que lo insulten, que lo pateen, vayan a cameo.com/Camille Brickhouse para un video de ella. Y de igual manera pueden conseguir su contenido exclusivo, foto, mercancía, de todo un poco. Patreon.com/Camille Brickhouse, patreon.com/Camille Brickhouse, para todos los fanáticos de Camille que quieran ver ese otro lado de la moneda en su vida personal y trabajar todo lo que ella está haciendo fuera de la industria, al igual que dentro de la industria. De igual manera pueden seguirla en Instagram como @CamilleBrickhouse, en Instagram @CamilleBrickhouse, ahí la pueden conseguir en todas partes. Y muy importante, NWA. Todos los martes, 6 de la tarde, hora del este, NWA, martes, 6 de la tarde, hora del este, Fight TV. Fight TV es el lugar para conseguirle una suscripción por solo $5 al mes. NWA lo tienes ahí, 4 programas semanales que están excelentes. Los que tuvieron la oportunidad de ver los pasados, créanme que no se van a arrepentir. NWA está disponible en Fight TV, martes, 6 de la tarde, hora del este. Camille, first of all, for us, it's an honor to have you here as our guest in Lucha Libre Online, so thank you for your time. Last but not least, what can we expect from Camille and the NWA in this new chapter of the brand?
So you can expect that I have a lot to show and a lot to prove. And as pretty much a kind of brand new wrestler in this, I can't wait to grow and learn and just get better and better and better. And as far as the storylines and stuff, I can't give you guys too much information, but we had the taping, so I know a few things that's going on, and I just think that everyone should tune in to see what happens, because it's going to be a really good season.
I'll translate that. ¿Qué podemos esperar de Camille de la NWA en esta nueva etapa, en este nuevo año para la NWA? Obviamente vienen muchas cosas grandes, pero menciona algo muy importante. Obviamente, como una luchadora nueva, está emocionada por el futuro, pero las historias, algo grande va a pasar con la NWA, así que tienen que sintonizarlo los martes a las 6 de la tarde por Fight TV. Camille, thank you so much for your time. Always wishing you success in your career and in your personal life, and thank you for your time. It's an honor for us.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Y sigan pendientes a Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en español.